Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Lili Dishmasi Mirosi Rizbas Mordechai. Today, Be'ezer Hashem, we're going to do Daf Peites, starting from Daf Peites Amud Aleph. It's really, we owe a whole Amud here. This is a Daf that I gave over last night at 1 o'clock in the morning here in the Beis Medrash. It was unbelievable. We had 120 people here in the Beis Medrash. It was insane. It was a tremendous Kiddush Hashem coming out at 1 o'clock in the morning to learn Torah, Shavuos night. But because we couldn't record it officially, we probably did record it, but so now we have to, we can't say. And because some people weren't here. So we're going to chazer over Daf Peites, starting with Peites Amud Aleph, all the way in the bottom, the last word, Soif Soif. This is going to be a record. We are going to see the face of 5 Amudim, Be'ezer Hashem, with Peites all the way to Tzadik. So, as a review, we started off the Perek. Oh, do I have to say the sponsors?
Sure.
Sponsors. Yeah, Vada. So, first of all, the food that was sponsored last night was sponsored by Mordechai Sapaznik, so Grace Yishkoyach. I don't remember the Lashon exactly, but he knows the Lashon and Akol Beseder. The Koilo is sponsored, hatzlacha, Kol Mishpachas MDY. Parnasah Chodesh number 1, Ahron Fraiman, Lzchus continue parnasah, siyadta, dishmaya, and hatzlacha rebelli. Parnasah Chodesh number 2 by the Lock and Lebovic families, Lakewood NJ, because Torah is the best segulah. And finally, Hillel Zand, Yosef, the Neshama and Amud Aliyah. So, the Mishnah describes a very interesting case where there was a woman who was married to a man and the guy disappeared on her. And they came to tell her that the husband she was married to is no longer alive. Who exactly came to tell her? So now we're going to see in the Gemara that it means it was an Eid Echad, one Eid. And because I said the word Eid Echad, that triggered a story from Moshe Feinstein, a very interesting story. He said, in Moshe Feinstein, he passed him like this. There was a boy and a girl, younger. And the girl gave the boy a ring. And she told him, look, I got this for my graduation. And if we ever separate from each other, you have to give it back to me. He says the boy to her, in front of one Eid, he says, Hareyad Mukudeshesli, but the Ba'azuk, that's Moshe Yisrael, and gives her the ring. And then he goes and he grabs it away from her. So the shaila was, that by mistake, was it Kiddushin or not Kiddushin, that she required get? A serious question. So Ramosha Paskin, since the girl said that she knew it was a joke, because there was only one Eid, and she's been to many weddings, she saw that there's Eidim under the chuppah, she knew it was a joke, and she didn't accept it seriously. And also in the fact that the boy grabbed the ring back, you see that he wasn't serious. So Moshe Paskin, they don't need a get. But what's beautiful is that he said that they deserve a punishment. You must punish them. Exactly, how do you punish teenagers? I don't know. You say you have to punish them? You also said they have to get married. That's a punishment. Yeah. Okay, Givaldi. So, Rav says that what the Mishnah said that she must divorce both of them, she has to get divorced from both, and she has to suffer the consequences, 16 different consequences. She loses her Nichsei Tzim Barzel and Nichsei Malod, the nursing homes, and all the money, all the income, everything she loses, and she has to get divorced from both of them, which is a knas. He says that's because she got married with one Eid. But if she got married with 2 Eidim, she has a husband, come 2 Eidim and say the husband died, and she married a second guy. Then husband number 1 shows up. You don't have to get divorced. So and there's a shoulder. Pasha laughed. What do you mean you have to get divorced? He's here. He's standing in front of us. Where do you have to get divorced? She's married to this guy. There's no shaila that she was married to this guy. So the Gemara says, you know what? It's not so pasha that it's him. Everybody denies that it's him. She says, I don't recognize him. So then why with one Eid does she have to get divorced? Because Eidim say, we were with this guy the entire time. You don't recognize him. You're right. And we did this whole thing with Rabbi Schoenberg. He looked like this, and he looked like that, and nobody recognized. Nobody in this shir recognizes you, right? Not a single guy. I don't even know if you recognize yourself. So, the one aid, two Eidim came and said, this is the guy. We know that we were with him for 40 years in jail and everything in Siberia. Here he is. So you get divorced. Says the Gemara, now we're holding all in about it. But how could the second guy still be married to this woman? At the end of the day, you have two Eidim that are testifying that here's the husband. So shouldn't he be besafek? He's married besafek. She doesn't recognize the husband. But what about the husband? What about the second husband? There's two Eidim that are telling him in his face, she's married to this guy. And she says, I don't recognize him. But they say he is. So for him, he shouldn't be allowed to be married to her. Oh, I think we have to say sponsored. Because we just turned. Sponsored by Moshe Orn in honor of Hillel Zand. Sponsored in honor of R Eli. Great. What happened is that her husband happens to be one of the witnesses that saw that he died. What's a good kash on that? You're not allowed to marry, a witness is not allowed to marry the woman. The answer to that is that we learned there's a few exceptions. That if he was married, the witness was married at the time to another woman and he testified, then later on he's allowed to marry her. Says the Gemara, but what about she herself? She herself should be chayiv b'ashim tali. Meres barley, I have simanim. I know for a fact this is not my husband. My husband had a big scar right down his forehead. Look at this guy; he doesn't look anything like him. So Mela, she's not chayiv. Ihachi ma'ile meimers. Now what's the chiddush? Afilu Rabbi Nachman Rabbi Yosi like Kamar Alex Shabo Eidim Achshachin says. Rabbi Nachman Rabbi Yosi is going to see in a second. There's a difference when she got married. Did she get married after the testimony or before the testimony? Obviously, if she gets married before the testimony, she's in a much better position. She say, I didn't know. I if I was supposed to get divorced, I have all these children and everything. So, but if she got married and afterwards the Eidim came, he never said she should get divorced. Who's this? Rabbi Nachman Rabbi Yosef. We have 2 against 2. 2 say he died, 2 say he's still alive. 2 say she's divorced, 2 say she's not divorced. She shouldn't get married. Mimni says, and if she gets married, she doesn't have to get divorced. Rabbi Nachman Rabbi Yosef Omar Teitze. When does she have to get divorced? If she didn't listen to the testimony and she got married after the testimony, okay, I say she should get divorced. But if she got married and then the Eidim came, even I admit, she doesn't have to get divorced. Says the Gemara, therefore, Kikam Rav Nami. So in our sugya, what happened was, she got married after the testimony. Now, Pukim in the Rabbi Nachman Rabbi Yosi, and Rav is saying that the law is not like Rabbi Nachman Rabbi Yosi. She doesn't have to get divorced in that case. Eidim came and said her husband is alive, and she got married anyway. She doesn't have to listen. Then she doesn't have to get divorced. What Rav was saying is in a case that she got married and only afterwards the Eidim came. So she got married beheter. But if she didn't listen to the testimony was first, and then she got married, then he holds you have to go out according to who? Then he did pass on Rabbi Nachman Rabbi Yosi. Okay. You have a kohen who's not allowed to touch tumah, and he keeps on touching tumah day and night. Dapnoi. What does dapnoi mean? Looked it up. Only time in Shas. I think it's incredible that the word appears. It appears in Masechta Sukkah as a doifen, but not in this sense. Dapnoi over here means You beat him. So if a kohen is married to somebody he's not allowed to be married to, or he touches tumah he shouldn't be touching, we have 3 kohanim in the room. Unbelievable. At least one Levi, 3 kohanim. Very, very small island because it's already 11:42 at night, and we don't expect to be finished before 12:30. Okay. It's incredible, because we have here sometimes 50 people in Shachris and not a single kohen. Kohanim are very rare, so to have 3 kohanim, unbelievable. Okay. So, if the kohen doesn't want to listen, we beat him up a shtickle. How do we know this? It doesn't say v'kadosh, he's kadosh. V'kidash you shall make him kadosh. Bal karcha, against his will. Hechidami. Says the Gemara, well, what's the case? Eli Stefansky says lechol meidel v'lekamar barley. She doesn't have everything going for her. She didn't marry the own witness, and she doesn't know herself what's going on. You have to tell me a chiddush that she has to get divorced. You beat him up until he divorces her. Elalav. The nisis lechol meidel. The kamar barley. So you have to say talking about she knows what's going on. She married one of the edim. She's sure what's going on. She knows doesn't recognize him. She has simanim and everything. Because Tani dafnoi. This is a big cash on Rav. Rav says you don't have to get divorced. So it says you have to get divorced. You beat him up until he divorces her. She has to get divorced. Says Gemara, you ask me a question about a kohen. Kohanim are different. Kohanim, we treat them differently. They have more kedusha. He has to get divorced. He shouldn't be married to this suffix. A regular Israeli, she could be married in a situation like this, where not everybody's so sure that she's allowed to get married. You learned the word wrong. You're right. It's only one time in Shas, and that's why you thought dafnoi means you beat him. No, my dafnoi beat him. The pshat is that you bring edim, you don't let this guy get married. You keep on bringing proof until you run out of proof. We bring more edim and more things to stop this marriage. What's going on here? First, Adam came and testified that she's not allowed to get married. Her husband is alive. Then she got married. Rabbi Yosef goes according to Rabbi Nachman, they have to divorce. Rashi Oimer, Milo Teitzi, the Rav. Oh. So we had a Shaila on Rav. What's going on here? You have Adam. You have Adam that come and say, here's the husband. So the Gemara is Shaila. What do you mean? She doesn't have to get divorced. Her husband is here. No, the pshat is like Teitzim Me'atera Rishon. If she got married with 2 Edim, so she doesn't have to get divorced from her first husband. 2 Edim came and said that her husband died, so it's not her fault. She got married beheter. She couldn't get married to the second guy. Why shouldn't she listen to 2 Edim? 2 Edim come, they could kill anybody. They could say, we saw a murder. So they saw the guy died. And based on that testimony, she got married. So what Rav is trying to say is that if she got married based on 2 Edim, there's nothing more that she could do. And she got married to the second guy. She could go back to her original husband. Says the Gemara, but why did he say it in different words? Ha'amar Rav Chadazimna, he said it in a different way. Now, what does Shalei B'Shus mean? Don't forget what Shalei B'Shus. Whoever's here on Yom Tov knows what Shalei B'Shus. Whoever's here on Erev Yom Tov knows Shalei B'Shus. Shalei B'Shus means with Edim. You think it means a bad thing. She got married without permission. No! When you have one Eid, you go to a Bezdin. And you get permission from Bezdin. So that's B'Shus. There's something even better than with permission. It's called 2 Edim. How could it get better than 2 Edim? If she got married to Edim, muteres lachzer loy. Here, that's the halacha we just learned. She's allowed to go back to her original husband. Says Ravuna, that's the halacha in the name of Rav. So the issue really is, I believe, that Rav would never say the same halacha in 2 different ways. You could say the same halacha over and over to Talmidim, but in the same lashon. He would say, muteres lachzer loy. Or, like we have it on Peiches Amud Aleph, the same exact halacha, says, there's a difference, Muteres Lachzer Loi or Loi Teitzei. But Rab would never say it in two different ways. It would be too confusing for his Talmidim. So the Gemara says, Chada Miklala Dechaverta Itmar. He only said one of the two. You pick. Peiches Amud Aleph, Peiches Amud Beis. Whichever one he said. The other one were Talmidim that inferred from his words the same exact halacha. Nothing changed. It's the same halacha, just said in different words. One of them was from Talmidim. Omar Shmuel, Loishanu Elo Shloim Kachashtoi. So Nachamal, the story of our Mishnah. What's the story of the Mishnah? You have an Eid Echad who says, I know for a fact your husband is never coming back. I saw he's dead. I was at his funeral, he's dead. Says, and then she went ahead and she married a second guy. Shows up the first guy, the original husband that was supposed to be dead, knocks on the door. Shalom Aleichem, here I am. The halacha is she has to get divorced from both. Says Shmuel, that's only when she doesn't deny the fact that he's alive. She looks at him, she goes, and she faints. He's alive. But what if she looks at him straight in the eyes and she says, it's not you, you're a liar. You're an imposter. Like the story with the Billyack. Said it the other day, but just the chaz of the story. The guy showed up 40 years later, however many years later, he says, I'm this woman's husband. And she says, I don't know you. And the Billyack said, bring him to shul, let's see if he knows where to sit. Okay, so it happened. You're talking about a very long period of time. So I said over this Maisa the other day, last night. I had the article here from the Jewish Observer, October 1986. That's how old this thing is. It says the writer's colleague, Ramirez Lawitz, was present at this story. It's a very, very famous story, but it's kedai to say over. There was a woman who, in the war, she got a heter immediately after the war in the DP camp. She got a heter from a famous Rav, doesn't bring his name here, big tzaddik. There was witnesses that her husband died, and she got a heter to marry another guy. She's married to this guy for 20 years. Obviously, she had a whole mishpacha, and then the kids are getting married off. Everything's beautiful until she finds out that her original husband is alive and well in Eretz Yisrael. She went crazy. What did he do? So she went immediately to a Rav. I think she was in South America, it says here, South America. And the Rav and her, they traveled to Rav Moshe Feinstein, and they sat down with Rav Moshe Feinstein. This is a terrible thing that happened. She has a whole mishpacha, all mamzerim. The husband is still alive in Eretz Yisrael. So Rav Moshe Feinstein says, I want to hear the story. Tell me the story. So she says, I was in the DP camps. I got a heter from this and this Rav. And he gave me a heter. Based on this heter, well, he gave me the heter. And, during the concentration camp, right after, was everything Balgan. I lost my heter, but I heard it from his ears. And I got married. She finished the story. Rav Moshe looked at her in the eyes and said, say the story again. So she said the story again, word for word, the whole thing. She was done. And Rav Moshe looked at her and he said, say the story again. She said again, and the Rav is looking at Rav Moshe, what's wrong with you? She said it the third time. Then Rav Moshe says over here, he crunched up his face, and he leaned over the table and he said, you're a liar! It's impossible! I know that man, he was a tzaddik and a goin. And Rav Moshe said about himself, I've done 2,000 agunas, it says thousands of agunas, I've never once had a story like that. So you're telling me it's a lie. And she broke down crying and she said, yes, I lied. I never got a heter from that Rav, but I heard that he died. So I made up a story and I said that I got a heter from him right before he died and that I lost document. But I thought my husband died based on whatever I heard, and I gave myself a heter. And that was the end of the story. It's impossible that this Rav should be told like that. Rav Moshe Feinstein says the thousands that he's done, he's never once made a mistake. Now, one time did it happen that not every time did he give a heter, but when he gave 2,000 agunas, he was matter. Never made a mistake. 2,000, that's a lot of agunas. Wow. Okay. Anyway, weiter. So, what's the case over here? Shmuel says that if she denies that it's him, she doesn't recognize him, she doesn't have to get divorced. It's mamish this case of Rav Moshe Feinstein. Obviously, this lady couldn't say that. It was him. It was mamish him. She recognized him very well. Says the Gemara, what's the situation? If there was two Eidim, who cares if she denies the fact? But if it's one Eid comes and says it's him, it's because she denies it. If she doesn't deny it, she's just quiet. She has to get divorced. But here's the problem. What's going on is that the Torah said, Chacham said at least, that one aid is believed in this case to say that her husband died. And based on that testimony, she got married. So now one aid has the power of two aidim. So now who's denying that two aidim? A single aid. So that's one against two. Yeah, it started out as one, but one equals two. When we believe him. Only when we believe him. But now when one aid comes, we don't believe him. So it's one against two. Says the Gemara, comes the Gemara and says, the Eidim that came to testify against the Eid Echad were only women or Kroivim. And like Rabbi Nechemia, the side of Rabbi Nechemia, if we believe one aid, then we could do two aid and trei kemeya. Two is like 100. But when we believe one, so then we start seeing how many we have. We have 5 of these guys. When 2 women come to testify on one man, it's like we believe these 2 ladies like 2 men. 2 against 1. If one good aid came to begin with, then we don't believe 100 against the 1. The 100 women are equal to 1. It's 1 against 1. And he has the halacha of 2. What happened was, to begin with, we didn't have a good aid. We only had a woman testifying that the husband died. A lady came and said, I know, I saw the other, and we believed her. We're going to trust her. For agunas, we're going to trust. The tarza, the Rebbe Nechemia Achi. And what you have to explain is, Rebbe Nechemia, if the Torah believes one aid, you go by the right. And we believe 2 women testifying in a woman like 2 men on a man. But when we have 2 women against the Eid Echad, like by us, when you have 2 women against the Eid Echad, then they cancel each other out. So if they cancel each other out, what happens? What happened? You have a 1 aid that said that this woman could get married. 1 aid said, I saw the husband dead. So she went ahead and she got married. Then come 2 women and argue and deny the edus of the first guy. So they cancel each other out. But because she got married, so now she's in a status. So status quo. Let her stay married. Nothing ruins her status. She got married beheter, and now, okay, you want to cancel the aid. You don't want to cancel it, but Lamais, right now, she's married in Shalom Yisrael. Okay, new sugya. One of the punishments that we say, this woman who was married to a man and she got married to a second man because she listened to the testimony, when the original husband shows up, she has to do 16 things, and one of them is she needs a get from both. So when we're learning the Mishnah, I explained that the fact that she needs a get from the second guy is a knas. I got it from this Gemara right here. Why? She needs a get from the first guy. They were married. You can't. How do you absolve the marriage? The only way to do it is through a get. But why in the world does she require a get from the second guy? She had no business marrying the second guy, so that marriage didn't exist. It's a big zero. All it was a bunch of znus. For znus, you don't need a get. It's a zero. You don't need a get. But people might look and say, look, the first guy gave a get. The second guy married her. And now what happened? He just walked away, and she's marrying whoever she wants. You can't do that. Comes out, people are going to say, oh, you have a situation where Eish Ish she get married to whoever she wants without a get. Says the Gemara, what about the other case? It says in the Sefer. Amrullah, who's Amru? One name. Amrullah means Balak. They told her, your husband died. So she received Kiddushin, she never got married, she never consummated her marriage. She took a ring from somebody. Is that usher? No. But she took Kiddushin. And then her original husband shows up. Muteres lachzor. In that case, she's allowed to marry. She's allowed to go back to her original husband. But the Gemara asks, people are going to think that she got divorced from the first one, and she received Kiddushin from the second one. She says, and it comes out that the Eish Ish is allowed to walk around, even though she got Kiddushin, she can walk around without a get. Says the Gemara, you're right, and therefore lo yilom buy a get. She needs a get from the second one. Oh, she needs to get from the second one, and she goes back to the first one. Big problem. We know the halacha is that if a man divorces his wife, it's a mitzvah to remarry her. But if she went ahead and she married somebody else, it's also to marry her. What does it say in the pasuk? Oh, so over here, she received Kiddushin from a second man. How could her original husband take her back? You're going to say that's mutter. Says the Gemara, no. If you're resident, keep it. They're going to say, we don't pass, we pass in like Rabbi Yosef. See that what? Look at the pasuk. When can't you take your wife back when she married another guy? When she married him and she was nivaltin, hutama. But if she only received a ring from him, then it's mutter to take her back. Says Gemara, Midiktani Seifa, Bishanosan Lo Ahron Get Daf, Pei Tes Amud Aleph. Here we are. Today's Daf. Afal Bishanosan Lo Ahron Get Le Poslo Minakuno. It says, if the second man gave her a get, she's allowed to marry a kohen. So what do we see from that? Miklad le buy a get. You see from here she doesn't need a get. You buy a get, Amai le Poslo Minakuno. If Chachamim require a get, Midrash she doesn't need a get. But once Chachamim say she needs a get, then she's not allowed to marry a kohen. Why? Because a kohen can't marry. You hear this chiddush? There's no get to all the Kehanim, to the son. A kohen can't marry a woman who got a divorce, even a fake divorce, a Chachamim divorce, a Rabbanim divorce. You hear? Don't say, Midrash she didn't require. Chachamim were machmer. Once a machmer, they say divorce, that's a no-no for a kohen. So the fact that it says on the top line over here, that if the second guy gave her a get, it's nothing, and she can marry the kohen, that means Chacham never said that she requires a get. So why are you telling me that the second guy has to give her a get? Says the Gemara, what are you worried? You're worried that people are going to say, they're going to talk, and they're going to say, he gave her a ring, so how is she now walking around and getting married to somebody else? People know right away. They chap. Oh, it's a mistake. Everybody knows. The guy, you heard? The husband showed up from the concentration camp. 20 years later, it's in the news. Everybody's talking about it. So they chap that the ring that she received was a joke. So, when the guy shows up from the concentration camp, so it doesn't matter if she got a ring or she's married to the guy for 20 years and she had children with the second guy. It's the same rumor. Everybody knows what happened. Everybody knows, okay. That's why she went out without a get, because the second marriage was nothing. Says Gemara, you're right, everybody knows, but Kansur Rabbanon. So this is where I got it from. The second get is a knas. Why is it a knas? Because everything in life, when you misplace your keys, whatever it is, you do something where you don't have to do it, and you think you did it, and it didn't work out well, and the meat is spoiled, whatever it is, it's a knas. It's a punishment from Hashem. And when you have to go get a divorce from somebody you don't want to do it, right? How many times did it happen to you? You made a platter and Hashem Yirachim and fell off the table and you have to start all over? It happens? When nobody sees. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. It was one of the worst things that ever happened to me in my life was when I was doing the 8-minute daf. I used to edit it myself. I edited. It was like I forgot, like 2 in the morning, and I forgot to press save. And the whole thing got erased. The whole thing. And I'm sure Gary could have found it in a second. I had to sit there for another 2 hours or whatever it was to redo it. And then I think it happened again. It was a disaster, but I kept on going. What? I know, but did it ever happen to you that you edited and everything got lost? Don't ask. Most likely. It happens. It's a terrible feeling. All those hours to waste. But it's a knas. Over here we tell her, I know, unfortunately, you hear in our community, to get a get today is like a disaster, right? So once in a while you hear it's 1 out of 100. Oh, they were mamish, they were normal to each other, everything was great. They just didn't match, and they gave it a get. But most of the time, it's a nightmare to get a get. So imagine you have to get a get twice from the second guy who didn't even want to be married to you. He thought that you're kosher, and you didn't even do your homework, and it's your fault that he has to get divorced. And his whole life is turned upside down. He's going to give you a divorce? Forget about it. So until you get the divorce from that second guy, that's your big knas here. Says Gemara, when she receives a ring from another man, let's give her a big knas and let's make her get a get. Says no. When she lived with the man, she's over Isurim, now we give her a big penalty. All she did was she received a ring from somebody. No, it's not an avera. Like in Surah Abanah. They don't give her knas. Fine, easy stuff now. One of the 16 things that we punish her with is in the ksuba. This is tremendous. Ksuba would mean that she doesn't get any of the tzayim barzel. She comes in with a nursing home, and it was worth $1 million when she came into the marriage. Now it's worth 10. She loses the whole thing. Why? My time at the beginning of Rabban Ksuba, the whole point of the Ksuba is the reason is that it should be difficult for the man to divorce his wife if it costs him so much money. And we found out, what does it cost? $2,500. So as soon as we said it, the whole like $2,500. Wow, it's peanuts. They were running. I told the oil last night. I said, don't do like after COVID. When COVID was over, the day that COVID was over, they said in China, like millions of people ran to divorce courts, like to get divorced. They were sitting in the same house for 3 months and they decided to get divorced. Like crazy, like lines. So don't rush to this. You found out it's only 8,000 shekel. Okay. We want it to be easy for this guy to divorce her. It's not going to cost him a dime. No ksuba. Why doesn't she get support, mezainas, this, that, nixim malug? Nothing. Worn out clothing. Why? Like ksuba, ksuba dama. These are all things, conditions within the ksuba. Once you don't get a ksuba, you don't get all the conditions. Nothing is elmizah. Let's say she went ahead and she grabbed her nursing home bag, she grabbed her whatever it is, she grabbed money off the table. She has to give it back. Pshita. It's not hers. Well, what's the chiddush? I would think, okay, it's a knas. But if she took what is really hers, so now maybe he should try to prove it or whatever the reason is, I would think that it should stay by her. No, she must return it. Havlad mamzer. So now we start the sugya of oiker davar min haTorah. Do chachamim have the right and the ability to take something that the Torah says is this way and do it another way? For instance, in our sugya, it says in the Mishnah that because she didn't look into the death of her husband the way she was supposed to, the way we expected her to, we are going to count her children from the second guy mamzerim, and not only that, we're going to count the children from her original husband. When he comes back and they have relations, they're also mamzerim. How do chachamim make a mamzer? The second one, they're all mamzerim. There's no question. She was still married to the first guy. She had no right being married to the second guy. So anything that comes out of the second marriage, mamzerim. But how do Chacham have the ability to make mamzerim from the first guy? Here's the problem. Because a mamzer, who's he going to marry? You call a guy a mamzer, who's he going to marry? A mamzeres. His shidduch pool is very narrow. He can marry mamzerim. But he's not allowed to marry mamzerim. He's not a mamzer. He's a made-up mamzer by Chachamim. He's not a real mamzer. So it comes out that you're telling him to marry a mamzer. How are Chachamim allowed to do it? Could they do it? Could not. And that's the whole sugya on the tzaddik. Some of you already heard that sugya. But it starts right here. What's going to happen is we're going to do a lot of Gemara here, all the way to Peites Amud Beis until we get to the question. I just told you the question. Before we get there, the Gemara is going to go through the sugya of some truma stuff and see how that fits in here. It's not awesome. We learned over there meaning in Psachim, I think trumas, ein tarmin min hatomei al hatar. So, this is a different picture than the one you guys saw. Over here, the top one is a bunch of grapes that are tamei. By the way, I'm looking at my mouth over there and it's off. Gershon. You see that? Is that normal? Yeah? I'm just noticing it now. Okay. So, I'm not going to look over there. It's confusing. The top one is tamei because you have a sheretz over there that was matama the grapes. The tar, the bottom pile, it's all from the same vineyard. The bottom pile is all tar. So I'm taking grapes from the top. They're worthless. I take a whole bucket of grapes. You see the guy's hand. He's holding the grapes. What is it worth? 1 penny. Why is it worth a penny? Because the kohen can't eat it. And he can use it as fuel, whatever. It's worthless. You're not supposed to do that because what are you giving the kohen? You're rooting for the kohen. You're giving something that he can't use. It's a big no-no. Give the kohen something he can eat. So, we cannot use the tamei grapes in order to pater the tar grapes from truma. Bim tara. He went ahead and he did it anyways. If he did it on purpose, nothing. But midaraisa works, and that's the Gemara's question. How could Chacham say that it's not truma? Anyway, what does it mean? These words we have a machlokes. Omer Rav Chizda, and this is the problem. Rav Chizda shita, because Rav Chizda says le'asav le'klum kol ikar, it's zero. And that's going to be the question. How could Rav Chizda say, the pshat in the Mishnah is, that whatever he took, that handful of grapes that he took, and he says, hareza truma, midaraisa works. And Chacham will say, no, it didn't work. How could he say it didn't work? And what is he going to do with those grapes? He's going to put it right back in the pile, and everybody's going to eat it. They're going to eat truma, it's meya. This is the raisa. Even those grapes in his hand, they are equal to tevel. Tevel means fruit that you didn't separate trumas and maisers from. And there's an isur deraisa even for a kohen. Even a kohen who's permitted to eat truma and maiser, if he eats tevel, he's chayiv misa. Why? I don't know. It's exeris akasa. If you don't separate the truma out of it and he eats it, he's chayiv. Says Gemara. Rav Nasan Rabbi Shaya Omar, so here's the one that's mechulik. Rav Nasan says, no, it doesn't mean that the grapes in his hand that he used mafresh truma or nothing. It just means that the bottom pile that he tried to make truma, that's nothing. Avol truma havi. What's in his hand and he said it's truma, of course it's truma. Rav Chizda Omar Rav Nasan Rabbi Shaya the Amros having truma zimni the possibly mafresh says. The Gemara, the reason why Rav Chizda says he considers it zero because I don't want the guy to be over and next time or this time he'll say, listen, you're telling me this is truma, I'm not going to redo it. It's good enough. She's not going to do a second afrasha. So Chacham said it's a zero. Question. Why is it any different? So we're just Don't lose focus. We're trying to talk about a mamzer here, but we're talking about truma. Within the sugya of Oiker Dovim and Torah, we're going to get to the point on Amud Beis. Another case. It says in the Mishnah, if a guy has a gourd, cucumber, and he uses that as truma, and he finds out that it's sour, like those terrible salads that you eat, and also there's that one cucumber that ruins the whole thing. It's no good. Avatiach, and he separates a whole watermelon for 100 watermelons, whatever he has, and you find that you pop it open, and it's no good. Truma, it's a good truma, but you should redo the truma. Now, Rav Chisda says in our case, if you took from Tamei on Tar, it's 0. So why is it if you take from smelly, rotten watermelon, it's good. You just have to take another watermelon. Why is it good? Just say it's a 0. Why is Tamei and rotten not on the same level? They're both no good. So, says Gemara, Shogi Amazing Koram, he asked me a question from Shogi Amazing. Shogi Le'avadi Surah. By the watermelon, he had no idea that it's rotten, so he didn't do anything wrong. But in our case, with the rat in the grapes, he knew that it's tummy. He shouldn't have taken truma from it. That's why we punish him. There was a cop, Maisa Shaya. Kamatoya, maybe. So Maisa Shaya. A cop was giving a ticket on a car that was parked illegally. So the guy comes out of the building and says, "Officer, I was only here for a minute." So he continues writing the ticket. He says, "You're a nasty donkey." He says, "Okay, I'm writing you another ticket for interfering with the police officer. Let's call me a name." Writes another ticket. He says, "You're a jerk." He starts cursing him, yelling. He says, "Oh, now you're threatening me?" Another ticket. He gives a slap across the face. He says, "Now you heard a cop." Because he's done writing 20 tickets. So the guy walks away. So the guy says, "You're not going to move your car? I'm going to tow it." He says, "It's not even my car." So what do you? I just said I wasn't there for a minute. I was there a minute. It's not my car. Okay, Kitzer. So he didn't do anything. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shogi. You see, I didn't even say that joke on Shavuos night. It's special for today. Yeah. Now you're trying to match the two. The one recorded on Yom Tov, the one after me. You're trying to. I know you're trying to do that. Was it really different? But the two shiurim at the same time. That's even more confusing. The people that based the shiurim on the tie, official gross, and those guys. Yeah. Is that a joke? I told you what happened. I had a tie in the base measures. Somebody did me a favor, and he shipped it to my hotel. He thought I left it there. I left it on purpose. I just come and put on a tie. Okay. I asked Mechila from the whole island. It's not fine. Now, the Gemara says, V'rami shogi ha-shogi. We have a contradiction from the two cases that the guy made a mistake. So, here I did this so you have it. Rav Chisda. This is the bottom line on the screen, Gershon. That's why I said I should control it, because whatever. I'm sorry. So what's the Shabbos thing? It's going to come out like this. When it's a shoygeg, there's no knas at all. Everything is mutter. All the truma, everything is mutter. When he's pesheya, in other words, he should have seen. We're going to see in a second. He should have seen that the watermelon is spoiled. He could have done something. He could have figured it out. Then it's a good truma, but he has to do truma again. But when he's amazed, what's the case of amazed Rabbi Isai with the rat? He knows that the grapes are tamei, and nevertheless he takes truma from it. Then we're going to penalize him and say nothing. What he did is 0. Everything is tevel. However, the Gemara is going to say at the end. That's why I did light red. Not that I got confused. I didn't have other colors. I want it to be similar. Mazed, but it's 2 separate vessels. then we say the halacha is it's truma, but he has to redo the truma. So let's see inside. We're going to ask a question, one case of shogeg by when he did from the Tameh and the Tar. When you have the case of the rat, let's go back to the rat. Over there, when it was a mistake, we said if he didn't know that it's Tameh, it's a good truma. Hasam, but by the watermelon, by the smelly watermelon, katani, truma v'yachzav yitroim. Why does he have to take another truma? Says the Gemara, listen to this. Hasam, the watermelon is worse. When a guy doesn't know that it's tamei, he had no idea that his sheretz touched it, and he took the sheretz and threw it away. How could he figure it out today? There's no way for him to figure it out. But by a watermelon, he could figure it out. You can know if the watermelon is sour. He should have tasted it. Question: are you allowed to taste a watermelon before you take truma from it? Taisus answers, of course you can't. So what you do is you take a small sliver, you cut the sliver in half, you say this little sliver should be truma on the other sliver. So now, the other sliver already is a kosher piece that you can eat. You taste it, and then once you know that it's good, then you take truma. Says Gemara, now I'm going to have a contradiction between two cases of mezid. By the rat, that I did it on purpose. I knew that there's a rat sitting right there in front of me. I see that it's tamei, but I did it nevertheless. I took truma. I got a big fat 0. I didn't do anything. Hazamnan, Hatorim, Mishay Nakov. Al Nakov. Oh, I don't have the. Hold on. Chaval. Oh, I had the paper with me. Chaval. Okay. Yeah, no, okay. I didn't put it in the chart. Chaval. So, we don't need here. This is a nakov. If I plant in a pot that has a hole on the bottom, has a big hole on the bottom, so it's counted as if it's attached to the ground and nourishes from the ground. And then everything that grows here is chayiv and truma midaraisa because it's part of the ground. But if the bottom is solid, so it doesn't nourish from the ground, then everything in the pot that grows out of the pot is only chayiv truma midrabanan. So says the Gemara, Atayr Mishain Nakov Al Nakov. There's two ways we can do it. You have two pots with fruit. One is I'm going to take truma from the Ein Nakov. It doesn't have a hole, so it's a truma dirabanan. And I'm going to take dirabanan and try to use it as truma on the fruit that's chayiv midaraisa. I'm taking something that's not chayiv truma on something that is chayiv. That's nothing. Truma. Okay, we're going to count this truma. The yachzav yitra. It's not tevel. He has to redo it. So, how come by us we say by the rat when he does it on purpose it's tevel, it's 0, and over here it's not a 0. So that's why I said over here when it's two different pots, then the guy can say, oh, chacham makes sense. Yeah, I shouldn't be taking from here to there. But in our case with the rat, it's all one vineyard. So it makes no sense to this Amaretz. Why should I take again? It's all the same. And then he won't take again. Well, Rav Nosson Rav Shaya Omar Yosef Liklum Litakin Shirayim. Rav Nosson Rav Shaya argues on Rav Chizli. He says it's not a 0. What he took in his hand is truma. It's just that the bottom, all the grapes on the bottom, they're not truma. Abel truma havi. It is truma. What's in his hand is truma. Daf Yomi Beis. Sponsored by Moshe Horn in honor of Hillel Zand and sponsored in honor of Eli. Over here we have a fakerta case. He took from the doiraisa. What's chayim in the raisa? Why is it chayim in the raisa? because this pot has a hole in it. And since it has a hole in it, it's as if it's in the ground. And he took from there and he gave truma on the pot that's only the rabbanon al she'enakov. Truma is truma. The kohen is not allowed to eat it until he takes truma from another place. Says the Gemara, the rice of truma. Oh, and here we come with the bar. Midoraisa, what he took is good. In other words, tummy. In our case, this case with the rat, taking from the rat, from the tummy, and using it for truma on the not tummy, it works midoraisa. Why? Fine. Minayin l'torim. So quickly, we just have to do this in 5 minutes. Minayin l'torim min hara yofash truma is truma. How do you know that if you take bad stuff, spoiled fruit or whatever, you do it on good fruit? How do you know that it works with their rice? You shouldn't, but it works. Shouldn't have a chet when you take the bad. If it didn't work at all, how do you have an avera? The avera is because it worked and you used the wrong product. So you see from here that it does work. And therefore also, if you take truma from tame on tar, it also works. Now, comes Rabbah and asks Rav Chizda. And that's the whole sugya that we had on the Tzadik, Rabbah and Rav Chizda, Rabbah. According to Rav Chizda, that Chacham say that the truma that you took is zero, but when the rice it did work, but it's a zero. Even the stuff in your hand, the stuff that you separated, is considered pure tevel, and if you eat from it, it's the rice of my time. I'm concerned that if you say that it's a good truma, he might not do it again. How is it possible that minat Torah it is truma? Because maybe he's not going to take another truma. So Rabban uproot a truma and they make it into chulin. Oh, finally. After 15 minutes, we got to the question. How do Chacham have the power to uproot something that's midaraisa it works, and now people are going to eat truma that's tamei? Chacham said it's not even truma, and put it back in the pile. And somebody else is going to come along and eat that truma, and it's really truma midaraisa, and it's tamei, and it's midaraisa, it's truma that's tamei. So Rav Chizda tells Rabbah, this bro, whoa, look at our Mishnah. But she went ahead and married another husband because she thought her original husband is dead. Everybody's a mamzer. All children are mamzerim. I understand that the children from the second guy are mamzerim. But how could the children from the first husband be mamzerim after he comes back? It's his real wife, Yisrael Ma'aliyahu, and he's a Yisrael. And now the kid is a Yisrael, a regular full-fledged Yisrael. And he's saying that this kid that's a full-fledged Yisrael is considered a mamzer by Chachamim, and he goes ahead and he marries mamzeres. Guess what? He cannot marry a mamzeres. So this Nebuch, his little tiny pool of shidduchim was just shrunk even further. He could only marry a mamzeres. No, not even a mamzeres. He can't marry anybody from Yisrael, and he can't even marry mamzeres. So if he what? Okay, yoris. V'chein kiyos Rabban Rabbi mamzeres. Now my mamzer. If he can't even marry mamzeres, why do you consider a mamzer? Lost or Bas Yisrael, just to say that he's like a mamzer, you can't marry a Bas Yisrael. So they're going back and forth, Rav Chizda, Rav Chizda. Now, Rav Chizda sends a shliach to Rabbah in the hand of the shliach was Rav Acha bar Rav Huna. Is it true that a bezin cannot uproot something in a Torah? So let's just do this real quickly about Peh. Midrabanan, if a young girl under Bas Mitzvah loses her father, So the brothers and the mother can marry her off. But it's only Midrabanan. So let's say this girl has a massive Yerusha. She's worth $10 million. And she dies. Who gets her $10 million? Since she's not married to this man, only Midrabanan, so her brother should get it. No. The husband gets it. So what do you see? The idea of Oiker Dav Min HaTorah. Midoraisa, the marriage is nothing. Chachamim didn't want her to be on the streets. She's going to be a prutza. Get married. You're 10 years old, get married. But the new guy, he's not even married to her. It's only the Rabbanan marriage. And that the Rabbanan marriage, he gets all her nechasim. So you see, they're able to uproot something of their rice and give it to somebody else. But until we get to that, we just have to see, when does he inherit her? Three-way machlokes. Just to see real quickly, the end of the sugya is like this, very, very simple. According to Beis Hillel, as soon as there's a chuppah, even if she's 10 years old, there's a chuppah, he inherits her, and there's no concern that she's going to, what's the problem? She might do miyun. If she does miyun, then she retroactively annuls the whole wedding. We're not concerned about that. Once they do chuppah, she's probably not going to do that. Bishamai say no. First of all, she has to be a g'dayla. If she's a g'dayla, and then you do chuppah, then it's a regular marriage. So then he inherits her. And Rebbe Eliezer says no. G'dayla and bia. Okay, so let's see inside. When does he start inheriting her? At what point? Once she's a g'dayla. Well, the end of the sugi is g'dayla and chuppah. Only chuppah. At the end of the sugya, it's g'dayla and bia. The Yarshim begin a bitruma. So there's a number of things that go on here. All three of these things the Gemara is going to deal with that we're Oiker Dav Min HaTorah. We say that he inherits her, that's a problem. We say that he's a kohen and he becomes tamiter. How can he become a tamiter? He's not even married to her. It's not a real wife that the Torah says he can become tamiter. And how in the world does she eat truma? The answer is it's not real truma, it's only the rabbanon truma. How in the world could he inherit her if she didn't go to chuppah? They're not really married. Says the Gemara, you're right. Both things. It's she becomes a g'dayla and this chuppah. This is what they said. You say it's only chuppah? No. She's also a g'dayla. Then it works. It's a ma'aseh kedushin. Bia is it's one of the ways to be mekadosh a woman. You can't consider anything that a Tana does. Oh, you're right. She's an adult. And then there's Bia. How in the world can you inherit her? It only happened in the Rabbanon. The father inherits her. Well, the father is dead. So it means because of the father, in other words, the sons of the father, so you see, like Rav Chizda, that what? Chachamim are Oiker Dav Min HaTorah. So they were, no, Hefker is a Hefker. Chachamim have the right to take cash out of your bank account and give it to somebody else. What's the problem? What? Where's Hoya? I don't see Hoya. Where do you see Hoya? Hefker bez and Hefker. It says in your Gemara Hoya. Really? I don't know. Not in my Gemara. Anybody have a sifter here? No? In ours it says Hefker Bezna Hoya. Yours also says Hoya? No, I'm saying not my Gemara. But Hoya, not Hoya. We have to look it up. I mean, typically we say Hefker Bezin Hefker. I don't know what Chaya Hefker means. Dover Yitzchak, Menayin Hefker Bezin Hefker. And this also, on that line also says Chaya Hefker. By you. The second line too. Interesting. How do we know this idea? Shanemar Kol Asher Lo Yova L'Shlosh Liyom. By Ezra. Ezra wanted Klal Yisrael to leave the Goyish wives, and Ezra said, if you don't leave your Goyish wives, I'm going to take away your money. So you see the idea that he's able, the Chacham are able to take away your money. Take it away. I have another source. The head fathers. What's going on here? A father has the right to give his son any size Yerusha he wants. This son he likes more, he gives him more, or this one deserves more, needs more. So too, when Klal Yisrael inherited Eretz Yisrael, the Russian they gave as they saw fit. Fine. Now the next point is u'metamala. The husband becomes tummy if he's a kohen to this katana. The father should do it. Only midrabanan they're married. How's it possible? Says the Gemara. Listen to this. This girl is a mace mitzvah. Ask the Gemara. How's it possible? What does a mace mitzvah mean? Nobody is there to bury this girl. The mace itself, or the people, they scream, "Help me bury," and nobody comes. So over here, she has a husband, she has brothers, she has family, she has a neighborhood. What do you mean mace mitzvah? Why in the world should this Rabbanan husband be able to be matam himself to her? Says the Gemara, amazing. Listen to this. The husband takes the entire $10 million to himself. And then this chazer, he calls up the brothers and say, by the way, your sister just died, come pick up the body. So they say, are you Meshuggah? You took all our money, we deserve the $10 million. Rabbanan took it out of our pockets and gave it to you, and we should bury her? No way, you bury her. So what's that called? A mace mitzvah. Nobody's going to bury her. The neighborhood says she has a wealthy husband, and she has brothers, and this and that. The brothers say he's wealthy. And kids say nobody's going to bury her. That's a mace mitzvah. And we just have to do this line over here. Vayichel's beginning truma. And the little guy, the girl that's married midrabanan, she gets to eat truma. How's it possible? It's only a marriage that's midrabanan. Says, you're right. Bit truma derabanan. We're talking about truma that's only derabanan. That's why she gets to eat it. But otherwise, she wouldn't eat a truma deraisa. Have a wonderful day. Shlokas into Haid. We'll see you soon in just a few hours. Wish me luck. Yisher koyach. Shkoyach.